everyone. This is Talk Nigeria on Greetings 105.7. And on today's edition, we're taking a look at the elections, matters arising. What are the themes that have arisen from the conduct of the elections and from the results that have been announced thus far? And joining me to discuss this morning is Dr. Awalu Anwar, who is an academic, an author, and a political analyst. It is a pleasure to have you, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us on the show. First of all, let's get your impression of the conduct of the elections.
Well, my impression is that from what has happened so far, from the postponement of the first attempt to hold the election on the 16th of February to what happened in some of the polling booths, some thugs taking advantage of the situation in places like Lagos and Rivers, and the nature of delays that have been witnessed in some of the areas where election took place. There are several issues that the election has thrown up. One, the powers of INEC, its own responsibilities and ability to discharge its responsibility. I have seen several discussants talking about whether the INEC should be unbundled because the responsibilities invested in the institution appears to be too much, that the INEC is not as efficient as it should be. Secondly, my impression of the election is that our politicians, unfortunately, do not even seem to realize the importance of elections. Elections are not keys to opening doors for governance by all means. Elections, in my understanding, constitute part of the assessment mechanism for people to know whether or not they are welcomed by the citizens. But the way I'm seeing elections and the way I'm seeing especially people in authority trying to do all they can to stay put, the more I get saddened that it's not yet Uhuru for Nigeria.
Why don't you take a look at the current democratic dispensation in Nigeria from 1999, 2003, 2007. Now, 2007, as at 2011 and 2015 was adjudged to be the worst elections we've had in this modern dispensation. 2015 was adjudged to be fairer in comparison to 2007. 2015, not without its flaws, but largely seen as the freest and the first elections conducted in Nigeria in this dispensation. Now, leading up to 2019, there were loads and loads of expectations on the conduct of the elections, that at least a bar had been set in 2015. And normally once you set a bar, you're expected at your next attempt, you're expected to go higher. But from what you have seen so far and from the analysis you've given, do you think we have succeeded in raising the bar, or we've succeeded in actually taking the bar lower?
Well, maybe I should give some examples. President Goodluck Jonathan has publicly declared that his political ambition was not worth the blood of a single citizen. You can interpret that the way you want. We have legitimate constitutional laws governing conduct of election, the voting system, and electoral offenses, how they should be sanctioned. We have laws governing these issues. It was a public knowledge that the president said whoever snatches ballot box, he has instructed the military and other security agencies to gun him down or gun her down. And I was told one of the military officers was publicly saying that they will carry out the instruction of the commander-in-chief 100%. The issue here is any democracy is supposed to be based on constitutional provisions. We have a constitution in Nigeria. Do we have constitutionalism? The presence of a constitution does not guarantee constitutionalism, which is the operation of the different segments of society in accordance with the provision of the constitution. Granted, the commander-in-chief has given an instruction that whoever snatches ballot box should be killed.
Does that at the risk of their life?
At the risk, what does it mean? What does it mean? When I say 2 + 2, you know it's 4. I don't have to say it's 4. At the risk of your life, what does it mean? You could die. This is what it means. If it is the Pope or the Imam of Mecca that said this, I would say he is inviting God's wrath on the person. If it is a religious leader, but a political leader who has monopoly of instruments of violence, legitimate violence under him, to the extent that some of his officers even said that they will carry that 100%. Are we really obedient and loyal to the Nigerian constitution, or are we simply loyal to government of the day? So I haven't finished.
Okay.
Then the impression people got from that utterances of the president was that the opposition party or members of the opposition parties were desperate and they want to come into governance by all means, and if they want to use foul means, they should be dealt with. But in Lagos and in Rivers, in Port Harcourt, and other places, there were thugs that came and vandalized and set, after ballot boxes had been stuffed with legitimate votes, they opened them, they set them on fire. Everybody saw that on television. So the issue is, where are those carrying out Mr. President's instructions to kill whoever vandalized ballot boxes? So it appears as if in areas where the opposition is weak, there were full protection of the ballot boxes. In areas where the opposition is strong, there were full neglect of the security of the ballot boxes and even the voters. This is what it means, and this is what people get, at least people like me. This is what we come to understand. Because where were the people that were given the instructions for people to pay with their lives? Where were they? We only saw some, like in the case of Lagos, we only saw 2 unarmed police. They didn't even have a stick or club, unarmed, because they were posted and nobody was there. How comes?
Let me ask you this question now. There were 2 things you said earlier before you gave the explanation you just gave now. Let's take a look at 2 presidents and 2 comments. In 2015, one said, "My ambition is not worth the blood of any Nigerian." In 2019, one said, "Snatch ballot boxes at the risk of your life." Do you think these 2 comments are the major differences from what we've seen in 2015 and 2019?
Well, they are not the major differences.
In terms of how the elections
they symbolize the characters of the 2 people involved. One is thoroughly a Democrat, one is not. Because democracy is not by confession, and it's not by just belief, it's by action. This is what I get from the 2 comments. One, in my opinion, is ready to sacrifice even his ambition in respect of the integrity of the Nigerian citizen. The other, in my opinion, is ready to go to any extent to protect his position, come what may. This is my understanding. There could be other understandings.
Now, yesterday, some results were collated from different states, and certain results really raised a lot of eyebrows, and a lot of Nigerians had a field day commenting about them. Now, in Borno and Yobe states, we know these are the states mostly affected by the Boko Haram insurgency, and there are lots of IDP camps in these states. They recorded close to 100% voter turnout and valid votes. But in a state like Abia, that you could say is relatively peaceful, without any major insurgents, there were lots of cancelled votes and invalid votes. And then it begs the question, how come? So what do you think really happened in these places?
I have answered this question before, that areas where the ruling party is strong are protected and they are in the good books of almost every other person that may be in the field. I have high esteem for the chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. I have respect for him and his integrity. And I don't think it is INEC per se that is trying to be clever by half. But there are so many, when you come to the field, if you have ever voted, you know, INEC is just one of the people that officiate in the field. You have different caliber of security people there, and you have the politicians, and the fact that even in Lagos, and the areas that were vandalized were the areas where the opposition is thought to be strong. So what this shows me is that the elections, the conduct of the elections, or the management of the environment where elections took place leave much to be desired. And there may be some, because INEC is not just Mahmoud, there are so many people there, and we know some of the people that are there, who are their friends and where are their friends in the structure of the Nigerian polity. So there are people that were in INEC or were associated with the INEC that are also fully connected at some high quarters. So people have to be curious. Why is it that where actual war is taking place? Why is it that where actual war is taking place, that there was 100% participation, and where absolute peace and stability are established, there are crises, there are uncertainties. So these are what people should be thinking about, because to take power is a means to an end. It's not an end in itself. So the moment people feel that the whole essence of democracy is just to be in power, whether you will do good or you will do bad, in my opinion, is not the best assessment of the system. Yeah.
Do you think it is more of an institutional problem we have, or more of a problem with we as a people? Because at the end of the day, it is people that make up institutions.
I think it's both. Initially, I want to believe that no matter how beautiful a system is, if you don't get honest operators of the system, it may not succeed, no matter how much people try or hope. No matter how bad or weak a system is, if you get honest and credible operators, with good intentions and ability and capacity, then there will be some beautiful things that will come out of that such a system. Well, it's debatable whether we are actually in a democracy even now, because you see, democratic practices and conventions are like constitution writing. The process is more important than the product. If you get a very good constitutional lawyer, he can lock up his room and write a constitution that will look more beautiful than the constitution that we have, but it's not legitimate. You have to get representatives of people, some of who don't even know what constitution is or what they are even there to do, but they have to participate as representing an interest or a people or a constituency. So the militarization, for any military man, everything is war. And in war, what you are looking for is victory, no matter the number of casualties on any side. If you will be emerge victorious, this is what we are seeing. So, and the issue is even the political class, the political elites, we are so selfish, so parasitic, so self-centered, so myopic. We only think and pray and pursue the immediate interests. The immediate. You see, you don't have to be an expert to detect the deficiencies and defects of our political system. See what happened in Lagos. You can connect a few things. People saw 15 billion bonds with money getting into Tinubu's house. I saw him on tele say, when he was asked, he was saying that he doesn't work for government. It's his money. On the eve of election, you are a national leader of a ruling political party. Don't we have EFCC and other anti-corruption laws that specify how much volume of money one can have on his hands, not through banks? 15 billion banks.
But the thing is, from what you said, the argument could be maybe there were billion vans that went to his house, but can anybody prove, there was money inside them?
They may be taking water, maybe, or petrol. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Or even Fanta or Coca-Cola, maybe. Yes.
You referred to what some persons have said in respect of unbundling INEC. Now, I know that in some countries, in some, more developed countries, they do not have a central or a national electoral body. They have counties. When there are elections, counties conduct elections, and election numbers, votes from each county is added, and then you have a general figure. Do you think we might need something like that? Do you think if we had such a process, maybe it might help in making things easier? For example, like I said earlier, these elections, both for the National Assembly and the presidential election, were conducted on Saturday. And today is Tuesday. We still do not have the full result sheet of who has won and who hasn't. Don't you think maybe if we had a process where each county, in this case each state, conducts its own elections and results are announced there and then everything is collated together, we have a general figure? Don't you think if we had such, maybe by now all of this would have been done with?
What I would prefer, you see, that would have been better in a very sane society. In a society where people value their words and credibility. If you look at the elections organized by state electoral commissions, like the local government election, it's almost 100% for the ruling party, any of the parties,
yes,
whether in opposition or in government. So if that is the case, then there may be problem. What I would love is a situation where in every polling unit, election will be declared there and maybe sent to the local government or the state and then copied the headquarters. Since we have legitimate means of communicating things, if we do that, I think it will be better. Maybe in the future, counties or local governments, yes. But for now, I don't have the confidence that even the personnel to do the work, you have the people that work in the local governments. You know, our impression of local governments and what actually takes place there, any local government of any, under the control of any of the parties, is not palatable. So I would love a situation where election results will be declared and communicated where the actual voting takes place.
But don't we have something similar at the moment? Because, I mean, election results are announced at polling units. The only snag is that only INEC is legally mandated to officially announce. We already have something similar because, I mean...
No, what I want is that if you go and vote, then the results will be sent and then everybody, every citizen is allowed to access the website and see as the results are coming in.
Okay, so that takes me to electronic voting, because I was also going to ask you that. A lot of persons have talked about it, and I think personally I'm an advocate for it. Don't you think if we had a situation where, I mean, we live in a very modern age now where technology runs pretty much everything. Don't you think if we had a system where a software is developed, sorry, you could download the app, you could download the voting app, you could vote on the website, and when this is done, you have your cards like the PVC normally, but in this case, it is going to have your biometrics. And then for you to actually vote, your fingerprint will need to be scanned either on the app, or if you choose to go and vote on a machine, there will also be a machine, your fingerprint so as to authenticate that you're the owner of the card you are holding. And then as votes are coming in, you have the same polling units, just like we have now. And then there's a central system, there's a central room, like a situation room, where party agents, observers, journalists will monitor. And as votes are coming in, they are being recorded. On this, there will be a screen. Votes are counted as they're coming in. And at the end of voting, you're seeing everything. You don't even need to be told by anyone. You're seeing everything. That party A has scored XYZ number of votes, party B has scored XYZ number of votes. Aren't we ripe for such a system? Or is it that difficult to do?
Well, if we are using ATM to withdraw money and to send money, to buy a recharge card, to buy data, I think that is doable. Maybe the only fear is, you have Yahoo professors and Yahoo guys who could maybe hack
the
into
system,
something. Nigerians were very
creative
when it comes to the wrong things. So, but ultimately it has to be that. Ultimately, I think it will minimize even the amount of money being spent.
Exactly.
It will minimize, because once you have the machines, they just can be used anytime. We don't have to always spend billions
to print
and even
papers.
And even with the current election that you have about 3 lines of parties, too cumbersome. I think we should give that a serious thought.